Ooh, one of those days. What's up, everybody? Mike Frank, Tyler, coming back. Tyler, you were on once before, right?
I was on once
with
before.
Christian.
Talked about the Halloween spookies.
Oh, the Halloween scaries. We did that for a while. I think some people really loved it. I feel like there's two types of people in the world: the people that really are about Halloween, and then people that just don't care.
Yeah, it's a real blip. It's gone the next day. Halloween doesn't really linger around for a while after.
Right. I agree. And people do the whole like Christmas thing until New Year's, or some people like, oh, I just haven't gotten around to it. I'm like, well, it's, almost Valentine's Day. You could probably take down your Christmas decorations. But I agree. It's like Halloween flip. And Halloween kind of plays into Thanksgiving too, like similar color scheme too. So let's just take the spider webs off of the bushes, and then we're going to go right into, graciousness.
Yeah.
Scary. Anyway, so I was just away at a coaching event. I want to give a huge shout out to all of my coaching members. It's not my coaching clients, my coach's clients. Our coach, Sandra Hendricks from Mexico. She is a rock star business leader, as I'm going to call her. Used to be in real estate. And I remember when I got introduced to her and they said, would you be open to having a female coach? And I was like, it's 2023 or 2022. Like, are you even allowed to ask that? Like, what are we talking about? And I guess I just don't see the world in that way. So I was like, yeah, of course. Like, why have you not given me one yet? Many people in my life have been really impactful. So Sandra came along and she had a totally different energy and totally different vibe from every coach I had ever talked to. And I just, this is cool. Hitched my ride on with Sandra, and now she's setting up these meetings with agents from literally different countries. So there were agents from 2 different Latin American countries, including Sandra. There were agents from Curacao. There's agents from our group all across the U.S. One of the girls is from Germany, so she understands like European culture, and now she lives in California. And then we have agents in Europe that are actually a part of our organization. So we get to mastermind with all these people and hear about everything going on. And the one thing that didn't come up, the election. Right? Which was really refreshing. So refreshing. What did you do this weekend?
It was my 2-year anniversary with my girlfriend.
Hey!
So I did a lot of shopping, and at the same time I was getting some Christmas shopping done, which I kind of thought was a mistake because none of the deals were really happening now. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I'm just going to hold on to these and try and refund it later when the deals come out.
That's what my wife does. She would buy today, and then tomorrow she'd call and be like, oh, this one on sale, can I get? And they do. I mean, they're remarkably good at it. But the other thing that you did in the last week, you finished your pre-licensing exam, which is super exciting.
Yeah, just been doing my practice exams the last couple of days.
It's a daunting time. Like, you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's happening. The world is changing, and you're just like, can't I just get through this one test?
Yeah, I don't really know what changes are going to happen, so.
Yeah, well, we're actually going to chat a little bit about it. So with so much going on in the housing market, there's a lot of uncertainty, and people have been talking about what the new administration is going to hold for buyers, for sellers, what is going to happen with the changes in the stock market and the economic predictions, and then, of course, what's going to happen with real estate rates, values, and affordability. And so something we had talked about is kind of like the challenge that Maryland home buyers, are looking into. You and your girlfriend live here in Hamden. How much are you guys paying in rent?
It's just under $1,400.
Just under $1,400. That might be the most affordable rent in the city. And I'm not saying you personally. I just mean in general. I mean, there are people living in pretty simple, affordable housing, and they're paying $1,700 and $1,800.
Yeah, it was hard it wasn't on Zillow or any listings. It was actually my girlfriend's therapist found it on Craigslist.
You know what's wild? When I was with these agents in Curacao this past weekend, one of the things we got talking about was, rental properties and how you acquire tenants and, tenant quality. And we talked about homes.com and Zillow and Facebook. We talked about like the traditional methods of realtor.com and, Redfin and all the different platforms. And the agents, especially in Miami, they told me, they said, and they're Hispanic, so they come at you, right? Like, no, Mike, And I'm like, oh my God, what? And she goes, Mike, we only market on Craigslist.
Yes.
And I went, Anna, what are you talking? Like Craigslist?
It's free.
But yeah, but like I haven't marketed on Craigslist in forever. It was like such an eye-opening moment. What else do you do on Craigslist?
Yeah.
I mean, like I don't do
Various
any, I like
activities.
scan through Facebook Marketplace periodically, but I don't look for anything on Craigslist. John, when's the last time you bought something on Craigslist? What? 12 years ago. My God. I actually think you're probably right.
So many things on Facebook Marketplace.
No, I do a lot on Facebook Marketplace, but I don't do anything on Craigslist. What did you say? Yeah. So never now, but back in the day, used to. I honestly thought that Craigslist was dead.
We did as well. We
And
were
then-
looking on it.
And then, lo and behold, great rental opportunities. There you go, people. Now you know it. Don't market your rental properties on Craigslist because everybody's looking for low income. But yeah, I mean, $1,400 is even still a crazy price to pay when you're getting nothing in return. I saw an agent post yesterday, regardless of your feelings, you either pay $500,000 in interest over the next 30 years, and you have a $1.1 million equity 30 years from today, or in 30 years, you have paid well over $1.1 million and you have nothing. And I think that's the biggest key is like, even if you're only paying $1,400 a month, what could you be building equity on? And I think that's what drives kind of the Maryland housing market. It just, the affordability, the complexity of it, or I should say it the other way, the affordability and the simplicity of the process through grant programs and down payment assistance. But I'm curious, from someone who doesn't own a home, who's in tune here in Hamden, who's, you know, knows other people that are thinking about buying or not buying, what's the buzz about? What do you hear? What are your fears? What's going on?
Fears are that rates are going to go up. I've seen that a lot. And mainly that, I guess Hamden's definitely more liberal. And I'd say...
Wait, let me ask a question. When you say liberal, do you mean liberal politically, like red state, blue state? Or do you mean liberal free-spirited? Or do you mean liberal progressiveness?
I'd say like progressiveness. And I'd go as far as say politically. It's pretty... Over the last decade, for sure, it's been a lot more liberal. So I'd say I heard a lot more people just on Reddit disappointed about all the plans she had to build, the amount of homes she planned on building.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much a big kind of hit I was seeing on the Baltimore Reddit page.
I mean, one of the biggest challenges, especially here for Hamden, is like we're very geographically locked, right? There's no expansion opportunity in Hamden. We're geographically limited. You're either going over to Woodbury, you're going out to Reisterstown Road, Park Heights, or you're going the other way and you're in Charles Village and Johns Hopkins and even farther out, Waverly and some of the other neighborhoods. I mean, but if you want to be in Hamden, you're kind of landlocked. So you're either squeezing into something smaller like New York City, or you're spending a little bit more money to get into a better property. And it's interesting because we talked a little bit about what's going to happen in the new year, what's going to happen with the turn of the guide and the leadership and the direction of the of the new world order, if you will. And I think the reality is that we anticipate the same thing that we anticipated 2 weeks ago. Mortgage rates are going to be stable. Mortgage rates might see a little bit of fluctuation up and down, but we're not going to see anything like 5% anytime soon. We might get to the high fives at some point in time. But we're not anticipating 7.25. That's not happening in the market that we're anticipating. What I think is the harder thing to swallow, even here in Hamden, is property value appreciating just a little bit, right? But 3% appreciation on an average home value of like, what would you say? Just from your...
220, 250.
I wouldn't
around.
say you're awfully wrong, right? Like, so let's just call it 250, right? 3% market appreciation on a $250,000 house is $257.5. And that just threw another $50 towards your bottom line. And that made your rent from $1,400 to $1,450. And it becomes this kind of like snowball effect if you don't control it. And the way you control it is just by jumping in, right? Where we're afraid of the short term and what might happen, the long term is such a bigger picture. If you check out our blog today, we talk a little bit about real estate market versus stock market, which I know we don't do a lot of, but it was an interesting perspective, an interesting take on where the world is headed. And so if you do read our blog at frankoliverco.com under additional resources, blog posts, you can find the stock market predictions kind of echo the same sort of volatility, if you will. A short-term volatility, but with long-term gain and long-term potential, depending on what area of the market you're buying in. And that was something that recurred in the real estate space specific to Hamden, is if you're buying in an area that has more upward potential, you're going to have a better long-term return. If you were to buy right now in Canton, for example, the same property you buy here in Hamden, it's $250,000. What is it worth in Canton?
400.
I would probably agree, right? So let's just call it 400. If they both appreciate at the same rate, it is less affordable for the $400,000 house to appreciate exponentially, right? 3 and 4 and 5%. It's less affordable because all of a sudden it's not $50 a month as we described in the $250,000 scenario. It's now $200 a month at the same rate of appreciation because, 3 or 4 or 5% at 400,000 all of a sudden just became 12 or 15 or 20,000. And $20,000, we're now talking about, 120-ish a month, give or take. And so it can be really insurmountable to sustain that growth. So if you're thinking by comparison to a stock market investment, it might be a better investment to invest in some of these smaller towns. And as we're talking small towns, we're not specific to Baltimore. We could also be talking about Frederick or Alleystown of Walkersville or something up farther north, like outside of Bel Air. We get into Abingdon, we get into Aberdeen and Churchville and some of these other areas that have high long-term growth rate because we're buying in a smaller segment of the community. It was just interesting to kind of compare the benefit loss ratio of buying something in today's market. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that there's fear, right? When you were bartending, which, no longer, kudos to you, what were people talking about when it comes to real estate market at the bar? I mean, it was a real local community bar.
Yeah, everyone rented pretty much.
Yeah.
That I talked to or knew.
But why not buy, right? Why not take that next step? What's the trigger, if you will, that's going to push people off the ledge? For anybody that's paying attention, even for some sellers that might not have made that decision to move, there were a lot of people that were thinking about moving in 2016 and 18 and 2020. And then all of a sudden COVID happened and they just literally flipped the script. And 4 or 5 years later, they still haven't made that transition. What's the thing that's going to just like push them off the edge to buying their first home or selling their home that they've lived in for XYZ amount of years?
I feel like a lot of people just don't know like the things that they can qualify for and stuff like that. So I feel like it's a little bit of fear mongering as well online, just from people just talking about like how scary or how rough it can be. But also I feel like, people aren't as informed as they should be. It's just going off of what they hear and see other people say.
And that's kind of the same thing for interest rates too. What do you suggest people to do to become more informed? I mean, there's obviously a lot of things they can do. They can go to websites, they can go to Live Baltimore, they can come to our home buyer events. But like, if you had to sum it up, this is what I think everybody should do.
I would say do the research for yourself. Don't ask other people. Most people don't really talk about the great times it worked out. It's usually you hear a lot more of the complaints and you hear the good stories. So I'd say do the research yourself. Maybe even talk to advisors, financial people that can tell you where you lay in your kind of situation at the moment. And
damn, that's awesome. I couldn't agree more. I think with sort of like this anticipation of things cooling off as we enter into the new administration and the new year, and with more inventory coming, there's a lot of people that are kind of like, oh, I'm waiting. And it's because they just keep hearing people talk about it rather than educating themselves. What are the benefits of waiting? What are the disadvantages of waiting? And so maybe if you talk to a financial advisor or real estate specialist like yourself, or, even just your tax accountant, hey, what's the best investment of my money? The biggest thing that I try to let people know is, if you're going to ask me, what should I do in preparing to sell my home, or what should I do in thinking about buying, or should I invest in real estate versus the stock market? You have to start with the understanding that I am benefited by you selling or buying a home. And if you start with that logic, you at least know that if I tell you not to buy or sell, I'm obviously coming from the most genuine place. But if I tell you to buy or sell, it doesn't mean that I'm coming from the most genuine place. It's like, you have to take it with a grain of salt. I have a lot of people that meet with a financial advisor, and the financial advisor tells them how bad of an investment real estate is. And it's like, well, wait a second, that's not even their area of expertise. And I would never tell you not to invest in the stock market. So by consulting with your people and like really going deep, not just taking one person's advice, understanding where they stand to benefit and where they recognize your goals is the biggest key. For me, I feel like with opportunity, you just take advantage of something that maybe you didn't see before. And for so many of the people that would come into the bar across the street, I'm watching people walk in and out of Wicked Sisters. If you guys don't know, we're located right here in Hamden. It's fantastic. And it's great people watching. There's a person taking her groceries home on an e-scooter. Anyway, so I just look at all these people that don't even know that buying a property here in Hamden can qualify for grants, for down payment assistance, for renovation expenses because of historic restoration value. And there's so much potential that if they just stopped and asked, hey guys, you guys are doing a podcast. What are you talking about? Oh, real estate? That's so interesting. What can you share with me? And I feel like that is you in a nutshell. Like, if there was a chocolate store on the avenue that did the chocolate in the window, you'd be there every day. Be like, oh, what's it taste like today? Because that's you. And you'd get a sample, try it out and be like, very bitter today. Okay. And then the owner would say, oh, Tyler, how did you know? We got our beans from Guatemala today. Da, 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 da. It just like some people need that and other people really repel from that. So it's interesting that you said, hey, talk to everyone, get the information, because I do think that that's the best way to make a decision. Something that was interesting to talk about with our mastermind was like, do we think that it's a good time to buy or sell? And it was interesting. Across the country, everyone has a different perspective based on what's going on in their market. What would you say to someone here in Hamden, family member, friend, someone that you've known for a long time? Hey, I just got my real estate license. And they say, well, is now a good time to buy or sell? What do you say?
Well, I wouldn't jump the gun initially because still looking, I still have to get my license, but still looking for my first sale. So a part of me would go, right now's the best time, just because I'm looking to get my first sale. Honesty is the key. Okay. But no, because I'm also, this is, I guess, my first presidential change. Yeah. So I guess I would also just tell them, I've never been through this. I think it would be great to talk to somebody that maybe has like a little more expertise about it personally. Just because I've never really been through a presidential change.
To be honest, I think that's a super fair answer. Putting someone in charge of making the biggest decision of your life is kind of crazy. And to even think that they would trust you in 4 years when you've been through it once, the goal is to gain that knowledge and skill and comfort. But the reality is that no one person should ever make that decision to say, yes, now is the right time to buy. Yes, now is the right time to sell. I think the reality is it really comes down to what your goals are. And it was interesting because one of the girls that's from LA, she was talking about how people are utilizing their property that they've owned for a long time. And they're now, I forget the word, but they're zoning it, reutilizing it. I don't know the right word. But they're kind of finding a better utilization to what they already own. So whether they're knocking down the property and building up something bigger, or whether they're adding, auxiliary property, we call them, oh my gosh, I can't even think of the words. ADU. Accessory dwelling unit, where they're a second dwelling on the property, and now they're maximizing their potential because now they have a renter in the space, or they're simply subdividing the land and selling off a portion of the land, but they're retaining their own home because it's challenging to find your next place. There's so much more than just do I sell or do I buy. And I feel like it takes an army to really start to assemble that knowledge. It's not just one person. So that was pretty fair. And I feel like people shouldn't rely on you more now or less now, because right now you're a resource for them. In 10 years, you're a resource for them. That's all it is. I think, if you're considering buying, my recommendation is, it's always a good time to buy. I mean, you're talking to the wrong person, because that's just my thought. My thought is, when the interest rates go to 27, let's buy again, right? Because in my head, I just think about what's it going to look like in 30 years. I'm either going to have nothing, or I'm going to have 30 years of 27% interest. Like, what's the difference to me? I want equity build. So that's always going to be the perception that I take. But the other question that I'm asking is like, okay, so if we're not going to invest today, if we're not going to buy a property today, what does your investment portfolio look like? What else are you doing? Because I think that's the biggest thing to take into effect. You and your girlfriend are renting a property again for $1,400 a month, and you're putting down the drain, let's just say, for simplicity's sake, $15,000 a year, right? So you're putting $15,000 down the drain. Are you better served to buy a property? Are you better served to move in with family and save money? Are you better served to buy something big with a mother, father, brother, sister, cousin, so that you guys can afford a bigger property together and co-live? That's really where my conversation comes from, because I don't think there's ever a right time to buy or a wrong time to buy for you. You have to figure that out, you, Tyler, or you, Mr. Buyer Seller, right? I think the biggest thing is kind of planning it out and making that decision over the course of a year or 2 or 3, not out of haste because my lease is coming to expire. So I think the summary for me is that people should always buy. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say, based on I haven't sold a home, you're going to say the same thing.
Say the same thing.
But I do think genuinely, I mean, my wife and I have bought multiple properties in the last couple of years, and we bought our primary residence at a crazy interest rate that most people are like, I would never buy in the market today because I'm locked in at 2.5. It's like, yeah, but you're locked in at 1,200 square feet too, right? Like, we needed more space. And so you kind of have to do what's the best thing for your family. You can't get focused on what the world and the outside influences say.
Yeah.
Fair?
Fair.
At any rate, well, lots of good things. And we kind of only breezed through what was on the blog content today. So honestly, every once in a while, I'm really recommending you guys go to the blog. And I know it gets old, but at frankoliverco.com, under additional resources, read the blog. There's a lot of content. Talks about stock market a little bit, which we don't do a whole lot of here, but it is interesting, kind of the cross comparison between real estate market and stock market and the volatility that's kind of in our hands right now. It's like, feels like we're playing with a ball of fire, and sort of like where that energy is going to go is really exciting to watch. I also think that you should be focused on tax benefits and benefits of rental income, plus deferring tax expenses by utilizing some of the tax programs may be a way that you think about selling property that you already currently own. And so, it's never a bad time. Maryland real estate has always been continued stable growth. We've got a lot of government, a lot of military, a lot of kind of services and needed support. We're not driven by tech and high dollar, and that's not what brings our business around. So I do think it's a good opportunity for you. If you haven't already, make sure you reach out to your real estate agent here on our team. Our pie party is coming up in 2 weeks from tomorrow. Make sure you register, because we do have to place that order by the end of this week. Oh my God. So order your pies, get with your real estate agent. We'll make sure you guys get signed up. And of course, there's all kinds of things going on. There's basketball events with some of the local colleges, Penn State, Virginia, Villanova, Virginia Tech, I think. There might be a couple more thrown in there. It's kind of a Hall of Fame basketball event at CFG Bank, which is a lot of fun. And especially for little kids, it's a low cost event to get into a great environment. And if you like basketball and college basketball like I do, definitely get down there and take a look. That's happening this weekend at CFG Bank Arena, and feel free to reach out anytime. You guys know where to reach us on Instagram at Michael Frank _____, because now there's another Michael Frank with only 3, so I have to say all 4.
Yeah.
Or you could go to our website at frankoliverco.com, and you can reach us all there. Tyler, how can they reach you?
Cool. You can follow me on Instagram at Tyler Jackson, TY1ERJACKS0N.
Love it. All right, guys, we'll catch up with you real soon. What's up, guys? Thanks for watching. For more information on the housing market, Real Estate 101, how you can leverage your position in today's market, and so much more, click on the link below. If you like this video or have a burning real estate question you'd like us to answer, leave us a comment and let us know. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode, and we'll see you again real soon.